In this video, I'm going to talk about part 4 of the Health Communication Campaign project, but specifically the presentation portion, which is submitted alongside the paper portion. As I've noted when I was talking about the paper portion of part 4, the paper and the presentation are technically two separate assignments in Canvas. However, they're very clearly linked together. The reason they're separate is for logistic reasons. What you'll do with the presentation is other students will watch your presentation and provide some feedback and assessment. In order for that to work appropriately, we need to list them as a separate assignment. So that's the reason why they're two separate assignments. What you'll do with the presentation is basically provide a summary of what you've written about in your paper and also talk about and introduce and share the two health messages you've created. Now, before I get into some of the details of the presentation, what I'd recommend you do is use a site like YouTube or Vimeo, where either you can record directly to the site or upload a video of yourself giving this presentation, very similar to what I'm doing right now, where I'm recording this video and then I'm uploading it to YouTube. Ultimately, what your submission will be to Canvas would be a link to that available video. One quick note, when you do upload, make sure your privacy settings for that video allow it to be either unlisted or public. It's up to you. Unlisted just means somebody needs the URL to that video in order to watch it, that it doesn't appear in search listings. If you list it as private, that means nobody except for you or the people that you authorize can view that video, in which case you wouldn't do terribly well on the assignment because nobody else can access it. So it's up to you to make sure that other people can view your video by listing it as either public or unlisted, but make sure that it's available for people that have the URL, because the URL is what you ultimately are submitting to Canvas for us to take a look at. Now, in your presentation, what you basically will do is provide a summary of the main parts of your paper. What you want to avoid doing is simply reading from your paper. That's something that wouldn't do terribly well. What I want you to do instead is kind of talk about the main parts of the paper. It's okay to have some notes, speaking notes that you can look down at, but I want you to avoid reading from the paper and instead talk about your health campaign. None of us have seen it. None of us have been involved in it except for your instructor. So this is an opportunity for you to talk about that health issue, the target population, the theory and research that have gone into you developing your hypothetical campaign, and then also sharing and talking about your messages. What you should do is include the messages in your video in some fashion. So if you have a poster, maybe hold up the poster so that we can see it. Or if it's an audio portion, play the audio so that we can hear it and listen to it. But what you'll need to do is share that content in some fashion, preferably within the video itself, because that's nice and easy. I have some details about what should be included in the presentation when you go to the assignments menu and then the part 4 presentation assignment where you'll actually submit the content, so make sure you take a look at that. But in general, your presentation should be roughly 8 to 10 minutes in length. That should give you enough time to think about and talk about the content that's in your paper and also sharing those messages. So you want to shoot for the 8 to 10 minute mark. Again, you want to avoid simply talking, reading from your paper, and instead summarize those different sections and explain them verbally. Again, other students in class are going to be assessing this, so make sure you submit that link and that it's listed as either public or unlisted so that other people can view that video. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact your instructor. I'd recommend avoiding waiting to the last minute to record and submit your presentation. If you work at least a couple days in advance, if you aren't happy with how you did your video, you can always re-record it, but if you wait until the last minute, you only have that one shot to do it. So again, avoid waiting until the last minute. Feel free to contact your instructor in case you have any questions about the presentation portion of part 4.